is I would not move to insist that someone was quote unquote heroic for walking away from their friend after he was shot. Okay, that wouldn't be the adjective that came to my mind, heroic. I also don't feel the need ever to qualify any of my friends with an adjective. Think about how strange it would be if on this show, every time I cover Tucker Carlson, I was like, the spectacular Tucker Carlson, the breathtaking Tucker Carlson is under attack in this moment. You'd be like, why are you doing that? Why do I feel like you're trying to program me? This only made me more interested in Mikey and the McCoy story. And I want to be super clear here. No innuendo. I know that Mikey McCoy did not kill Charlie Kirk. We watch him in those moments. But it's also becoming pretty apparent to me that the stage was being set for Mikey to become the new Charlie.
When Candace Owens finally spoke up, she didn't ease into it. She detonated something. For weeks, people had been tiptoeing around the strange behavior surrounding Charlie Kirk's final moments, whispering theories in corners of the internet. But Candace didn't whisper. She stepped forward and said what millions were thinking but were too afraid to say out loud. Something about the story surrounding Micky McCoy and Erika Kirk did not add up. And the way she said it didn't sound like commentary. It sounded like a warning from someone who had seen behind the curtain and didn't like what was there. Her message carried a tone that instantly changed the temperature online. This wasn't petty drama or clout chasing. Candace risked her reputation, her alliances, and a massive backlash from powerful people tied to Tpuza. The moment she hinted that the official story had holes in it, the internet froze. You could feel the collective inhale. Was she really going there? And she didn't stop at, I have questions. Her words suggested that there were deliberate attempts to shape the public's perception, that certain people were pushing a narrative that didn't match what really happened. Candace positioned herself as the one person refusing to play along, refusing to repeat the script that others expected her to. Her stance signaled one thing clearly: if the truth cost her relationships, influence, or platforms, so be it. She wasn't backing down. Candace didn't just open the door. She kicked it off the hinges and dared everyone to look inside. Right after the incident, before the shock had even settled, a very specific storyline started spreading, almost like it was ready to go. And it wasn't about Charlie. It wasn't about the tragedy. It was about Mikey McCoy. Suddenly, everywhere you looked, Tpuza insiders, speakers, and even Erika herself were using the same exact script-like language to describe him: amazing, heroic, brilliant, a rock, the one who held it together.
Anyway, the thing that I realized is that Mikey McCoy, the chief of staff of Turning Point USA, Mikey McCoy, for whatever reason, he always requires an adjective. Whenever they discuss Mikey McCoy, there's an adjective before they say his name. A bunch of people in the Turning Point USA orbit described Mikey McCoy in this very unique manner. I want you to take a listen to that.
Well, let me tell you who the heroes were in this whole thing. We're going to start with 23-year-old Mikey McCoy. And that's when the great Mikey McCoy showed up.
And my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
My friend Mikey McCoy, the brilliant 24-year-old who at the time when Charlie was shot was 23 and was a hero that day.
I used to be known as Charlie Kirk's pastor, now I'm known as Mikey McCoy's dad.
He clicked into gear eventually. It was
Mikey,
amazing.
Mikey was a heroic figure on that day.
Amazing, heroic, he was brilliant. It stood out to me really because it's only Mikey that they moved to do it for. And objectively speaking, okay, I don't care what your experience in life is, I would not move to insist that someone was quote unquote heroic for walking away from their friend after he was shot. Okay, that wouldn't be the adjective that came to my mind, heroic. I also don't feel the need ever to qualify any of my friends with an adjective. Think about how strange it would be if on this show, every time I cover Tucker Carlson, I was like, the spectacular Tucker Carlson, the breathtaking Tucker Carlson is under attack in this moment. You'd be like, why are you doing that? Why do I feel like you're trying to program me? This only made me more interested in Mikey and the McCoy story. And I want to be super clear here. No innuendo. I know that Mikey McCoy did not kill Charlie Kirk. We watch him in those moments. But it's also becoming pretty apparent to me that the stage was being set for Mikey to become the new Charlie.
It felt less like genuine praise and more like programming. The repetition was strange. Coordinated. Candace picked up on it immediately. Why was Mikey being branded as the shining hero of the moment, when the footage the public saw didn't match that image at all? Who decided that Mikey needed to be framed as the calm, noble, dependable figure of the story? To many, this sudden flood of glorification looked like someone was trying to shape the audience's emotional response before people even had a chance to think for themselves. It's an old media tactic. If you repeat a narrative fast, loud, and in unison, the public accepts it before questions begin. But Candace wasn't buying it, and neither were viewers who replayed the clip and felt their stomach twist.
In fact, on stage, at the memorial event for Charlie and elsewhere, they were trying to prime the public for that plausibility, almost like it was this psychological operation, nod to Rob McCoy and his family lineage, to see Mikey as capable of filling Charlie's shoes. Take a listen.
Let me tell you something about Mikey. Mikey's been with Charlie for several years. He's 23 years old. He is wise beyond his years. And when that tragedy struck, Mikey was an absolute hero who kept everybody calm and did some of the most mundane things you would think you would need to do on the worst day of his life. And he continues to be a rock. He's been following Jesus for a long time. I'm hoping that Mikey one day will follow in Charlie's footsteps right to the college campus, because he has the ability, the demeanor, the grace, the knowledge to do so.
Set an example for the believers in speech and conduct and love, in faith and in purity. Our speaker today, Mikey McCoy, has done that. His path was pretty much like Charlie Kirk's path.
Pretty much like Charlie Kirk's path, and he's got the grace and the wits and it's amazing, okay? And if you're wondering why we also included Erika saying the amazing Mikey McCoy in her first speech, it's because Rob McCoy, oddly, refers back to Erika's speech when he is asked specifically what he believes Mikey's future is going to be at Turning Point USA, okay? He's gonna start, you're gonna see, he's gonna answer a question. The show is Faith, the Faith Forward show. And he starts to answer the question, but then he sort of cuts himself off and he trails into a different topic, almost as if he catches himself. Take a listen.
And then Mikey specifically, like how he's gonna kind of fit into that picture, because when I'm seeing him speak, man, I'm like, dude, this Mikey is going to have a humongous role within this organization.
So Charlie was an avid journaler, very avid. And when Erika started opening up his journals after he was killed, she started reading. Charlie had a plan all the way through 2028.
Wow.
Written out. Written out. I mean, there's an order of succession, and when she comes out and she says the amazing, I think she said the amazing Mikey McCoy.
Mikey McCoy, yeah.
And this is one of the things I would share with Mikey. I'd share with Charlie, and I learned it from Steve Smotherman, and Pastor Steve Smotherman said it to Charlie. Where you're a public figure, you have very little privacy.
That was weird, right? That's a weird way to try to answer that question. What's he doing there? Is he trying to make us believe, but not explicitly state, but kind of explicitly state, or maybe implicitly state that Charlie's future, or rather Mikey McCoy's future, was written by Charlie in one of these journals? That's what I was picking up. That's what I feel like he was throwing down. Let me know if I'm crazy, but that was a weird way to answer. And he's like, so when Erika comes out and she says the amazing Mikey McCoy, he talks about the journals. What's going on here?
Because here's the part that set alarms off. This wasn't just one person praising Mikey. It was multiple voices from different angles of Tpuza, all pushing the same adjectives, the same tone, the same "he's a hero" messaging. Almost like a PR rollout. Almost like someone wanted to pre-install a storyline in everyone's minds before the truth could breathe. And Candace made it clear, when people try that hard to sell you a hero, it's usually because the real story isn't so flattering. Then came the footage, the crack in the hero narrative. When the clip surfaced online, Everything people had been told to believe about Mikey McCoy started to unravel. Viewers watched it again and again, slowing it down frame by frame, and what they saw didn't look heroic, it looked calculated. The moment the loud burst echoed through the room, everyone flinched, froze, or turned toward Charlie in shock. Everyone except one person. Mikey didn't hesitate, didn't panic, didn't check on Charlie, didn't even scan the room like someone trying to understand what just happened. Instead, he lifted his phone straight to his ear and walked away, calmly, steadily, like a man who already knew he didn't need to stay. People noticed the smallest, most telling detail. There was no visible dialing motion. No swiping, no tapping, no fumbling. It was as if the call was already in motion, or as if he'd been waiting for that moment. That tiny detail shattered the caught-off-guard narrative they tried to sell. Because if he truly believed a shooter was present, wouldn't instinct push him to duck, shield, or help? This is where the public's confusion turned into suspicion. The hero story said Mikey was the one holding things together, but the tape showed him leaving the chaos before Charlie even lost balance. No assisting, no reacting, just removing himself, and fast. Viewers were left asking, why didn't his body language match shock, concern, or fear? Candace seized on this exact contradiction. If the footage doesn't reflect the story being pushed, then who wrote that story, and why? If the footage sparked doubt, Erika Kirk's first public speech poured gasoline on it. This was the moment the world expected raw grief. A widow shattered, struggling to speak, barely holding herself together. And while Erika did cry, there was one moment that viewers could not unsee, the smile. A brief, controlled, almost polished smile slipped through, and it hit people the wrong way. It wasn't the kind of broken, involuntary smile grieving people make. It felt intentional, like someone remembering a script, not a husband. But the part that truly set off alarms? Instead of focusing on Charlie, she shifted the spotlight to Mikey McCoy. With a soft smile and a steady voice, she called him the amazing Mikey McCoy.
I want to thank the Turning Point USA board, the COO, Justin Strife, and my husband's chief of staff, the amazing Mikey McCoy.
Those exact words spread like wildfire. Why, in a moment that should have been about her husband, did she make sure to uplift Mikey? Not the security team, not the first responders, not the people who rushed toward the danger, Mikey. It didn't stop there. In later appearances, the same tone resurfaced. More praise, more glowing descriptions, almost rehearsed, almost like she was assigned a role to play, protect the narrative, keep Mikey elevated, reinforce his hero status. Candace later pointed to this moment as a turning point, because Erika wasn't reacting like a wife blindsided by tragedy. She was speaking like someone managing optics, someone carefully choosing words, someone making sure a certain person came out looking good. And once viewers noticed it, they couldn't unsee it. That smile wasn't just a smile anymore. It was a crack in the mask. Proof, to many, that something about this story was being performed, not lived. If there's one detail that completely shatters the official narrative, it's the phone call. This is the weak spot in the story, the part Candace zeroed in on because it simply does not line up, no matter how you spin it. Who Mikey called first, what he said, and when he said it has become the center of the entire suspicion, because the answers keep changing depending on who speaks. Erika says Mikey called her immediately, voice shaking, telling her that Charlie had been hit. But Rob McCoy, Mikey's father, publicly claimed he was the first person Mikey phoned, and that his son was shaken, emotional, and covered in the chaos of the scene. Then TPUSA's internal defenders pushed yet another version, that Mikey was simply following protocol Charlie had set, contacting specific people in a specific order, staying calm, and doing his job. Those three versions cannot all be true at the same time. And here's where the footage becomes a problem. If Mikey never even looked back to see Charlie's condition, how could he report details to anyone? How did he know enough to deliver the words he supposedly said? And again, the viral clip shows no dialing, no scrolling, no unlock, find a contact, tap. Just phone to ear. Too fast, too precise, too aware. If you combine the timing with the conflicting stories, you get one unavoidable conclusion. Someone is lying, or at the very least, someone is rewriting the sequence so that it fits a cleaner narrative. Candace labeled this the pressure point of the story, the place where truth bends. Because when a lie cracks, it cracks at the timeline first. This is the part that made people's stomachs drop, because it doesn't just look suspicious in hindsight, it looks planned. Weeks before Charlie's death, Mikey McCoy suddenly developed a brand new obsession, documenting Charlie's life. Not Turning Point USA events, not speeches, not behind-the-scenes team content, Charlie himself. And this shift didn't go unnoticed. For the first time ever, Mikey decided to mic Charlie up during an overseas trip. Not a media team member, not a Turning Point USA content producer, Mikey. The chief of staff. A role that has nothing to do with filming or capturing intimate footage. His explanation? He just thought it would be good to record. Convenient timing, considering it happened just days before everything unfolded. Then comes the second coincidence. Mikey and his wife take their first ever vacation with Charlie and Erika. A cozy, private family trip, no staff, no entourage. And somehow, during this rare getaway, the McCoys just happened to record the now viral intimate family footage of Charlie walking with his children, the clip that later became the emotional cornerstone of tributes across the internet. A moment that normally only a spouse or a family member would capture, but it was Mikey. People began asking the uncomfortable questions Candace hinted at. Why did Mikey suddenly become the personal cameraman of the man whose role he would later step into? Why did he feel the urge to record these legacy moments right before tragedy struck? One coincidence raises eyebrows. Two coincidences start a conversation. But three? That's when people stop believing in chance and start suspecting preparation. This is where the story stops feeling random and starts looking strategic. While the public saw Mikey as Charlie's young assistant, Candace pointed out something bigger happening behind the scenes, a family positioning themselves for influence inside Turning Point USA. Months before Charlie's death, Mikey's father, Rob McCoy, quietly stepped down from his long-held pastoral role and shifted closer to Turning Point USA's inner circle. He moved his life to Phoenix, the organization's base of operations. Then came the praise tours, interviews, and subtle succession language, with Rob hinting that Mikey had what it took to follow in Charlie's footsteps. It felt less like grief and more like grooming the public to accept a replacement, a handoff of power, a pre-planned transition. Candace's inference was bold. This didn't look like a family reacting to tragedy, it looked like a family ready to fill a vacancy. Here's where Candace's audience felt the final puzzle piece click. Rumors had already been swirling that Charlie was becoming uncomfortable with certain internal dealings tied to Turning Point USA, especially donor influence and the direction the organization was heading. Whispers online claimed Charlie was preparing to speak out, to clean house, and expose what he felt was happening behind the curtain. If that was true, his shift wasn't just inconvenient. It was a threat to people whose status, access, and careers depended on the existing system. And if Charlie was no longer aligned, the movement would need a new, golden face to keep donors calm and the machine running. Who fit that profile? Young, devoted, loyal, heroic Mikey, already being polished for the role. Candace didn't outright accuse anyone. She didn't need to. She simply connected dots that others were too afraid to touch. And once she laid them out, the theory didn't sound crazy anymore, it sounded possible. Candace didn't rush to expose any of this. She watched, waited, and paid attention to the small details that most people dismissed. But one moment snapped everything into focus for her, the subconscious "yeah" she described. She realized the pattern. Everyone around Charlie was treating Mikey like the chosen heir, and they were doing it with rehearsed language, unnatural timing, and zero hesitation. For Candace, staying silent would have meant becoming part of the script, and she refused. She knew speaking up meant backlash from Turning Point USA loyalists, influencers, and insiders who wanted the public to swallow the hero narrative without question. But she chose truth over comfort. Her message was clear: if I don't say this now, then the lie becomes permanent. And once she broke the silence, others found the courage to speak too. Candace wasn't trying to start drama, she was trying to stop a manufactured reality from becoming history. Candace's revelation didn't end the conversation, it ignited it. The moment she broke the seal, people stopped accepting the prepackaged hero story and started demanding receipts, call logs, timestamps, and transparency. The internet isn't treating this like a tragedy anymore. It's treating it like a cover-up unraveling in real time. Because if the praise was scripted, if the footage doesn't match the narrative, if the phone call stories collide, then what else were we fed to keep us quiet? Candace didn't hand the audience all the answers. She handed them the flashlight. And now millions are shining it into corners that were never meant to be seen. The door is open. The narrative is cracking. And if this much was orchestrated in public, imagine what was planned in private.